Present. All right, everyone. Welcome to another Grow session. I think most people have been here before, but just a quick little introduction. Get Ready with Entrepreneurs is a gathering of like-minded entrepreneurs interested in building their brand through networking and sharing of ideas and best practices. As much as there will be a focus on topics related to marketing, our goal is to take a holistic approach to building a sustainable business to support our people, planet, and profits. For those of you who don't know about our membership program, we recently launched it back in January and it is growing, pun intended. We do have a lot of new resources that we add weekly, as well as all of these recordings, upcoming events, and Canva templates. And I have a few more coming this week too. So I'm super pumped. Some of our upcoming events for the summer, we got a whole lot. And a lot more like workshops, and we got a really cool lunch and learn coming up at the end of this month, and really getting into specifics for like tech startups, authors, like service-based businesses. So take a look. All of these events are on our website. And then if you haven't connected with Laura or myself yet, all of our information is here. Top right-hand corner is if you'd like to follow along with Acorn itself. And then we do also have a Facebook group that we do encourage everybody to join. It's completely free, great place to have conversations, and we post a lot of helpful resources as they come up. So today we're going to have a quick little presentation on how to design a user-friendly website layout. And then I'd love to leave room at the end to have a little bit more of discussion if anybody has questions. And just a reminder that we are recording this session. All of our recordings are available in the membership portal. So let's begin. How to design a user-friendly website layout. So first off, what does it mean to be user-friendly? To be user-friendly essentially is to have a design that is well organized in a way that is easy for users to understand, navigate, and use. A user-friendly product or service is intuitive, clear, and effective, and it doesn't require a lot of effort or learning to use effectively. So why is it important? Being user-friendly is important because it can make the experience of a product or service more enjoyable, less frustrating, and more effective for the user. In the context of websites or apps, being user-friendly often means having a simple and intuitive layout, clear labeling and instructions, and a design that prioritizes ease of use over flashy or complicated features. So I have compiled 7 things that you can do to make your website more user-friendly. There are a lot more, but I have condensed it into 7 for today. So for one, keep it clean. Avoid clutter. Try not to look like a 90s flyer. You want to keep your background simple and avoid busy graphics or images behind the text, and keep animations to a minimum to ensure usability. How I like to think about it is if you were to take a look at this flyer and back up really far away, you could not tell what it is. Like there is so much going on. It's making me very unsettled taking a look at this. I mean, it does have its moments, and, in the 90s, it was huge, but I think we've moved on. Number 2, use white space, also known as clear space. So this is the space right here off to the right, if you can see at the very top, and the space kind of to separate bodies of text. It can help to improve the overall readability and visual appeal of a web page. By breaking up the content with ample white space, the user's eye is naturally drawn to the important information on the page, making it easier to read and to understand. This is really helpful if you do have those bold headings. You want to make sure that it's super clear, you have effective white space, so that way people aren't trying to figure out where to put their eyes. Number 3, consistent branding and design. Now, I'm going to say this and people are going to be like, well, yeah, duh, but not always. So when you're designing your website, really make sure that you are staying on brand. So ensure that your colors, your fonts, brand elements, and patterns are the same across all of your pages. But not only that, but ensuring that all of your pages have a consistent flow. So all the pages look like they belong together, not one page has a design and then you go over to the next page and it's like a completely different layout. You have buttons that look different. Now on one page, you're using larger fonts than a different page. Certain sections that should be similar are looking different. What I normally do when I'm building a website is I will use Miro. And if you've been here before, we've talked about Miro all the time. I will create the layout of all of the pages, as you can see in the image in the bottom right, to make sure that the flow and the sections all look the same. That way people feel familiar on your website, no matter what page they land on, no matter where they begin. Number 4, optimize for all screens. Again, this usually is a given, but sometimes people forget about some of them. So when you want to optimize for all screens, it means that your website needs to work on your laptop, your phone, and your desktop. One thing that people do forget about is that a laptop and a desktop, so like a monitor, has different layouts. So what would look on your laptop, it will be stretched on your desktop. So it's knowing that your website will work no matter what. Another thing to think about is the user on each device and how they will be interacting with your website elements. So for example, how somebody interacts with your website on a laptop or a desktop is going to be different how they interact with it on a phone. So if you do have buttons, or if you do have images or clickable items side by side on your phone, people are not using a mouse to click, they're using their thumbs. So now how are people interacting and navigating through your website with their phones? And I know some people are left-handed and right-handed, but majority of phone users are right-handed. So it's thinking about how is their thumb going to be interacting with it. So if you have a button on the top left-hand screen, that is something that people need to be clicking a lot, it's going to be harder for them to get over there. Number 5, make it readable. So use legible fonts. Avoid using script fonts for important titles and information. Script fonts are usually harder to read. And also ask yourself, can people skim read my content? Like, can they go through my website in a timely manner and be able to pull out key pieces of content and be able to read everything? Because when's the last time you went onto a website and actually read word for word what they had on the website? Unless you spend some time, you're like, oh, you're really interested, then you go over to the about page and then you learn a little bit more. But can people read your content effectively? A good recommendation for body text, that your website font size should be a minimum of 16 pixels or 12 points. And then for your headings and subheadings, a recommendation for size is at least 24 pixels or 18 points to make them stand out and be easily distinguishable from your body text. So if we take a look at the example on the left-hand side, the title that I've had, it's in all caps, but it's in a very descriptive, like decorative font, which can be harder to read. It is readable, but if I look at that, it kind of hurts my brain because now I actually have to think about what that says. And then the text underneath is a large body of text that is harder to read. I cannot skim read that. I actually have to pay attention. And a lot of people these days don't want to have to think about anything. They just want to do it. So number 6, have a good color palette. Now, I know we're talking about websites, but I'm going to kind of go into your actual brand itself. So when you are designing your brand, or if you already have a brand, you always want to think about how your color palette is going to be used. So in this case, we're talking about how it's going to be used on a website. Within your color palette, you should always have like contrasting colors. So you're going to have your darks, you're going to have your neutrals, and then you might have an accent color. And how that is going to be portrayed on your website and how you're going to separate everything. So we want to use contrasting like pairs of colors to maybe separate certain sections. So the bottom right-hand corner, I have the my sections separated by two very different colors. So they know what section to go into next. It kind of drives the eye down the website where I want them to go. Or even if you have a dark background, you want to have a contrasting button on top of that background so it stands out. They know exactly where to go. Another really important thing about your color palette is testing for color blindness. And I find a lot of people don't do this as often, but especially for accessibility. There's a website, and I have it down below. It's called colors.co. You can put in your color palette, and on, like, there will be a bar on the side with all different types of color blindness. And you can toggle back and forth to make sure that your colors aren't too similar. So for example, the image that I posted here, those two, like the orange and the pink, for this particular color blindness, it turns it green. Now those greens are very, very similar. As a designer, I would probably recommend changing the hues of one of those colors to make it a little bit more different. Or if you don't want to change it, I would just make sure that I don't pair that orange and that green together. So like I wouldn't have an orange background and then have a pink button over top of it, because it'd be very difficult for somebody to click it, to actually see it. So this is a really good exercise I recommend everybody goes through with their color palette. So last one, number 7 is, testing your website, like actually figuring out. So you've done all of your things, you've made all of your changes. Now, how do you make sure that it's working? Because I find even as a designer, I spend so much time in the website. I'm staring at it all the time, and I don't see certain things anymore. So I need fresh eyes. I need a way to test that what I'm doing is actually working. So there's a few things that you can do. One is my favorite. So user testing. So ask a selection of people to navigate through your website and take notes. My recommendation is maybe give them a task, or something to find. Like, okay, if you can land on my homepage, can you go through the checkout process? Or can you book a call with me, or find where to book a call with me? Another recommendation for that point is, if you do have a selection of people, try and have different types of people. So you can have people that are your audience, and maybe people of different age groups. So for example, if I have a website that I want somebody who is of the older age group, I'll get my grandma to navigate through with it. And I mean, she's getting there, like she's tech savvy, but still, it's another way it's a different perspective. Another thing is accessibility testing. You can use tools such as Wave or Axel to see if your website is compatible. Usability testing software. So you can use tools such as user testing and Hotjar for like heat maps, user recordings, and other metrics to analyze user behavior on your website. And A/B testing. So you can actually test 2 versions of your website to see which platform performs better, especially for like user engagement and conversion. There's softwares like Optimizely to create different versions of your website and track user behavior to see which version is more effective. So I know that was a lot. We do have a website design worksheet and checklist available for all Grow members. And for our Plus members, it is free within the actual platform. And if you're not a member, we do have a QR code that goes directly to it. It is on our downloads page. And this is a pretty hefty checklist. Like I'm pretty sure there's like 25 pages and walks you through on how to plan out your entire website, as well as like glossary of terms. It's really cool. Okay, so I think I went through that a little bit faster than I anticipated, but are there any, I know there was some questions, so feel free to drop them in the chat or raise your hand and, come on screen. I'm going to stop sharing now. How do I get rid of this? Stop sharing. Okay. Yeah, I know.
Thanks. No, it wasn't actually. The pace was really good, Emily. Thank you. One question was going back to the animation piece. So what is good animation, what's not? How do you, because we want to still keep movement for, what's the best in the way of animation?
Mhm. So I am a huge fan of animations. I think movement is really important on your website. But having things, maybe like fade up or fade in, like those really subtle movements that kind of make people feel a little bit more welcome, and it's not just like a solid website. It's the giant animations, where you have something like exploding, or you pixelating as you scroll through, um, or if you have it's the ones that are really intense that look like they belong at like a Hollywood studio. But those subtle ones to just add a slight piece of movement, and a lot of website builder platforms will allow you to have a website wide animation, meaning that you can pick one. So if you want something to fade up while you scroll, it will apply that to all of your pages. But like I said, it's the really intense animations that draw attention away from really important content. And also, the more animations that you have can actually slow down your website, which we don't want.
Right. And also animations that just don't stop, right? Like they're just
Yeah.
always going.
And always consider too, if you do have animations, how is that going to translate on other devices? So if you have this crazy animation, for example, if you have a hover effect on one of your images or on like your gallery, how is that going to translate onto a phone? Because you don't have the mouse and everything, they can't really track your thumb. Or if you have a mouse that changes, like if it turns into like an emoji or like a sticker or something when you hover over something else, how is that going to translate onto a phone? Is that going to make it more difficult for people to actually use? It might look really cool on your computer, but it might be a little weird on a phone or an iPad or tablet.
Cool, thanks. And very similar to that is the whole idea of videos. What's your thoughts on videos, auto play, non-auto play, and even if you can incorporate the whole idea of slides too, it's that piece as well.
I think videos are really is really important to have on your website. A couple recommendations I can make is if you wanted to have a video, like when you first land on your website, like right at the very top, those are really cool. I love those. But understanding that if you have a video, if it's really crazy and there's a lot going on in the background, it could take away from the title that you might have over top of it. Or if it's super busy, it's going to look like a 90s poster. It's going to have it, you won't be able to read the text because there's just too much going on. If you do have a busier video in the background, I always recommend, put like dim it down, like make it a little bit darker, or put some kind of overlay over top of it so that text does stand out. If you are putting videos onto your website, I always recommend, and most website platforms have this, where you can import it from like Vimeo or import it from YouTube instead of actually embedding it into your website. If you embed it into your website, it adds more things to that page, which can slow it down. So if you are importing it from YouTube or from Vimeo, it's actually not sitting on your website, it's pulling from somewhere else. We use Vimeo. It's really a really great tool. I try not to use YouTube just because of the ads and stuff. It can get really annoying, but Vimeo is great. Any other questions?
Okay. Did you talk about autoplay or not?
Oh, autoplay. It really depends on the video. I think if you are having that introduction video, you can have it on autoplay like a loop, especially if it's something that you don't need people to watch. It's just like an extra, like, wow. If it's something that you need people to watch, I'm not a huge fan of autoplay, especially with something with sound, because then all of a sudden you land on that page and then sound is coming out and you're like, whoa, I'm not ready for this. You're also, if you have autoplay, you're forcing people to watch it when they might not be ready for it. If you are walking people through a certain process, autoplay could be really great, because then it's one step that they don't have to take, but then you know that they're landing on that page and they are ready to watch that video.
Okay, thank you. Oh, here's another one. Pop-ups. Good for deep engagement or call to actions. Thoughts on that one?
Pop-ups are great. I'm a huge fan of pop-ups, especially for new visitors. The one thing that I will mention about pop-ups is, if you do have one, please ensure that the X, or however to get out of it, is clear. Or it's easy to get out of it, because I cannot stand when I land on a website and there's a pop-up and I have no idea how to get out of it. Or the X is in like the tiniest top corner in the right. And I'm like, I can't find it. Or it's so blended in with the rest of the design, loses. I will exit through that. I won't even, I will actually be so mad that I will never go back. So pop-ups are really great. And the great thing about pop-ups is usually you can control when it comes in, when it happens. So if somebody is brand new to the website, they'll get a pop-up after 5 seconds of scrolling, or they get to 30% of the way down. Also, another annoying thing about pop-ups is when it comes up on every single page. So if I have been on the website, I'm looking around, pop up on the homepage, great, awesome. But now I go over to the about page and then it pops up again. I'm like, okay, I've seen it, been there, done that. I'm over it. Go over to the next page, pops up again. Now I'm just annoyed and I'm going to leave. So I think when you are playing around with pop-ups, think of their experience on your website, and how people are going to be interacting with it. Maybe take notes of when you're on websites and you see pop-ups, what you like, what you don't like. I'm personally a fan of ones that just pop up in the bottom right-hand corner. That way I can still see the website. The pop-up can stay there, and maybe I'm not ready for it yet. That way I don't have to click out of it and then wonder where it goes, wonder where it is. Which goes into my next point of, if you do have a pop-up, people might not be ready right away. So if you have a pop-up at 30% of the way down, people aren't ready, they're going to click out of it. Make sure that whatever was on that pop-up, people can find on your website when they are ready. Whether that is like an announcement bar at the very top, or it's in your footer, or somewhere else on your website, just make sure they can find it again.
And that's a lot in the e-commerce world, right? Because how many times do you go over to an e-commerce site and instantly new members, 15% discounts? Like, well, I haven't even seen what you have yet.
Yeah, right.
And then it disappears. And it's like, darn, where did that go? Because I want to buy something and I don't want to miss out on the discount. So make sure you do think through that. And that's where getting someone to test it and give you notes can be really helpful, right? What about that announcement bar across the top?
Ooh, I like announcement bars. Something super subtle. I think they're really great for announcing events. If you have something coming up, it's just a small little bar at the top. You can customize the colors and you can customize the link. It's kind of like having a pop-up without actually having a pop-up. Or if you do have a pop-up, let's say with a discount code, and you are worried that people are going to click out of it, they're not going to use it, they're not going to find it again, put it in the announcement bar as well at the top. So then people always know where to find it. And people can still use the website even with the announcement bar there. But then the announcement bar also has like a little X that you can click out of it if you want. So
does the announcement bar show up on every single page or just the home page?
It would show up on every single page.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, it depends on your website. I know with Squarespace, you have the option to put it on every single page. But I mean, it's a great thing to have on every single page, and it doesn't annoy people, right? Like as much as like a pop-up might.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really great feature.
And then they can get out of it as though it was a pop-up?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. We have another question in the chat too, about a blog. Is it recommended to have a blog on a website?
I am a huge advocate for blogs. Laura and I both are. It is a great way to continuously add content and add value to your website. So if you are someone who might not make a lot of updates and a lot of changes, especially for, Google search and everything, if Google can see that you're constantly updating your website with more things and more value, then like a blog is just great. And then it's a great way for you to show thought leadership, and that you know what you're talking about, and to drive extra traffic, especially if someone is searching for something. If you sell a product, if someone's searching for something on how to use something, use a certain product, they could land on your blog because maybe you wrote a blog about it. And then people are like, oh, this person really knows what they're talking about. They'll explore the rest of your website and actually figure out that you do have a product to sell. And now they know that you know what you're talking about, and they would trust you a little bit more. Anything more you want to add to that, Laura?
No, the whole content marketing strategy is key, and it needs to be considered blogging within the context of your whole strategy, right? Because you might have what we call macro content, large content like a download. So if you need a lead gen page, and then the blogs can be smaller ones that can help with SEO, but also as a little bit of appetizers before the big lead gen download. And then, so blogging from an SEO standpoint, user frequently asked questions, people are searching for those. That's a good way to answer it. It's another way to talk about your company, right? Like if you have an update, you can use blogging because you can use different categories. Well, maybe it's my community outreach I'm going to talk about, and I'm going to put a blog there. Or I'm just launching my new website. Or here's things about frequently asked questions. So there's just a lot of resources and a reason for people to keep coming back to your website, even if they're not ready to buy, right? Or to help them through the funnel, the decision making. I know I was looking for, and it wasn't necessarily a blog. So this is where, but if you're looking for new things like a new makeup or a new clothing and stuff like that, it's like, well, how do I make that decision? Is it right for me? I want to see pictures. Maybe it's a little video how to, and maybe they talk about, here's the latest fashion for cyclists, right? Like kind of things. And so it's all about giving that person context and information to help them make that decision. And then remember the whole funnel. And at the end, how do we keep them coming back? And so Emily mentioned those how-tos. That's a really key one after they've purchased it to actually add value. So you do want people to keep coming back even once they decide, and blogs are a good way to do it. It doesn't mean it has to be a blog, but find a way to keep updating your website. Maybe it's you're constantly launching new products. Maybe you're adding new things around a product and it can be right in the product page. It's just much harder to do that. Blogging platform makes it easy. So that kind of goes back to the next question is, how often do we do it? As often as you can. Like, I think it depends. Google's constantly searching your website. People are coming back to you. Don't let it sit there for 6 months, right? And maybe you do it every 6 days, or maybe you do it once a day. It just makes sure it's keep fresh and it's new content. Do not do duplicate content. Seriously frowned upon by the world of Google and any of our search engines. So do not duplicate stuffs, but it has to be new and fresh as often as you can.
What does that mean, duplicate? Like reposting something you've already posted on it? Is that what you mean by duplicate?
Yeah. So if you now updating and refreshing a blog is good, because then you can actually you could even do a redirect if you want to refresh and repost a blog, but then add new content. Just remember, you have to redirect an old blog link to that in case so you don't lose your SEO juice, but also for your user if they have that. And it's just a good way to keep things fresh, but you want to definitely add something new to it, right? Like say new trends. Here's the new trends for the year, for sure. And then duplicate would be, even if it's slightly different, don't write about, so I have a blog on mine, how to put communication goals and objectives together. Well, I'm not going to write another blog just on, hey, let's do communication goals and pull out just goals. Even though it's not exactly the same, it's still a large part of it's already done in a separate blog. So just make sure it's fresh and new. Does that help? Des, you have your hand up.
Yeah, a couple of follow-up questions. Emily, in terms of video, going back to that one, what's an optimal length? So I'm curious about that. And my other one was about duplication, Laura. If you're doing a vlog and a blog, so you're doing things, taking the audio and the video and using them separately, so that you're hitting multi. So you do podcast, let's say, but you're also doing visual, but you may be using the text of that as a blog, for example. I think someone told me it's called pillaring, where you write one thing and you use it multiple ways. How does duplication come in that sense? Is that a problem, or is that okay?
I'll just do that one quick, Emily, as yours might be longer, but yeah, it's okay. And quite often, if you have the video and then the transcript there, it's okay, because Google's not going to go through and listen to your whole video and go, hey, that sounds like the same as the text. So definitely do that. And I've seen that done so well. Social Media Examiner is one that I am a fan of if you want to see what that's done and done well. And it is the video. They'll do a video, they'll do a podcast audio on the same one, and then it's a transcript with notes and links and things like that. So it's like a lot of work, but there are programs where, like even Zoom, when I export my Zoom, I have text and I also have an audio file. So there are ways to do that. And so that definitely is not duplicate if you put that on a website, in the eyes of SEO anyway.
Awesome. And then in regards to video length, for your website, it depends. Like, it depends on the purpose of the video. If it is more of an educational video, longer ones, I mean, they might work. They might be okay. If it is a promotional one, like if you are having something on your homepage that you wanted to do like a promotional of your product or like of your service, shorter ones are typically what you would want. Think of the reason why people will be watching it. So if it's to learn everything about you, it's like they probably don't have all the time in the world. So maybe sum it up, have it really catchy, get to the point. But if it is a more educational one, people are probably there because they want to learn about that specific topic. So you might be able to have it a little bit longer. Now, when I say longer, like don't drag it out, like still get to the point. Because again, people don't have all the time in the world. But you do have a little bit more wiggle room to probably make it longer because they are there because they know they want to be there. So I guess just thinking like, if you were to watch this video, how long would you stick around for? And who your audience is. So if your audience is someone of the younger generation, think of them as having the mindset of a goldfish, like 3 seconds, like very short attention spans. And I am one of them. So if you ever need insights, I'm happy to do that for you. Or if, you do have like, maybe you're part of the older generation that is there to learn a little bit more and does want to learn more about your story and get to know you more on like the personal level. It really does depend on your audience and getting to know them. A great way to test it out is with social media. So maybe you put out a couple of videos on like Facebook or on YouTube or Instagram, see which ones are performing well. Then maybe you could put that one or something similar on your website and see how that translates.
Just as the old person in the crowd, unlike Emily, who likes the longer stuff, I though, like, it's like reading a book, right? How does the author keep me going from one chapter to the next? Always make sure you always go, oh, right, I want to learn more and want to learn more. So understand the time span and keep them going more, and then leverage the tools that YouTube and Vimeo have. And that's called, and it's best practice, is using timestamps. So if you have a longer video, go through and mark those chapters and say, now I think YouTube might do it automatically, but you can put them into the description. So from up to at 0:00, that's your introduction, right? At 3 minutes and 23 seconds, I'm going to say a little bit about me, or I'm going to do this, and mark it down and put it into the description. That way people can go and see it. So I have done that a lot in my 2-hour sessions and webinars from the past, and it works well, because then they can go, oh, I want to just learn about Instagram, or I just want to learn about this, and they can skip through it. So that will keep them engaged and get them right to the point, and it's very helpful. Also, make sure that you put in a description about what you're going to be talking about, right? And so it gives them, it preempts them before they even decide if they want to watch it or not. And then always make sure at the bottom of that description that there's a call to action for them to learn more. So the other part of the video too is, if you don't want to put in that full series, maybe you do a webinar and they're distinct chapters, and you can split them up and do them as a series of videos where they will have the next one come up next. So they can actually hit little snippets. And it's the way our brains work, right? We will like the little snippets. So break up your videos too. And that actually might be totally different blogs, right? So now we have, oh, I did a 2-hour webinar, but I actually have 6 blogs, 6 topics, and I can pull them out. They're individual videos, individual blogs. And now I actually can put those whole series together. So there's a bit of a strategy behind that. Does that help, Desmond?
Yep, indeed. Thank you.
Okay.
Emily, can I follow up if there's no other questions? In terms of using Vimeo or YouTube, one of the things I haven't used either, I haven't put anything, a video on it, but when I'm a user, when I click on a YouTube video, after the video's over, you don't know what you're going to get, right? So yes, an advertisement, which that's life, but you may get something that's, takes their attention away from your website. So is that just a reality of the situation?
That's just a reality of YouTube. I haven't come across any alternatives for websites that allow you to have those like quick little redirects. I know with YouTube, there are ways to edit what you want them to see next. However, how that translates onto a website is a little bit differently. If you want them to stay on your website and maybe go somewhere else, like go to another page or go to a next step, maybe just have that call to action very clear underneath the video. So almost like if the reader is, okay, you have your title, you have your descriptive text, then you have your video, then have your call to action underneath. So they know where you want them to go. And with YouTube, that is the reality of things, is there's a higher chance of them going over to YouTube, like leaving your website and going over there. But what I'd recommend too is go through the process of how they would view your video. If you are finding that, maybe you're getting these like random recommendations, or if you are noticing people are leaving, maybe switch from YouTube to something like Vimeo.
And what the selection that they're offered at the end of a video, is it based on the creator's related interests, or is it related, or is it based on the subject of the video they've been watching, or their own interests? I don't know. Usually
it's based off of the topic that they just watched. If the user is logged in, and I believe this is only for Chrome, don't quote me on that, but I think if they're logged in already, because it's linked to your Google account, like your YouTube login.
Oh yeah.
They're on your website and they're linked. like they're already signed in, it knows what the user is. It's like, it's almost like it's keeping track. Again, I'm not sure if that's still the case because of all the new privacy rules that they've been putting in. But from what I understand is it will just recommend things based off the topic they just watched.
Sorry, I do have one follow-up question. YouTube and Vimeo, you're a subscriber, and so you always have access to the content. Is it, I mean, obviously one's not doing controversial stuff, but assuming lots of people get banned or have limitations put them on YouTube, and some of them are completely valid, but sometimes they get caught up in a web of other people, or it's automatically done by a bot, and maybe they're talking about something that has double meaning. And so I know, I mean, I don't think it's a big threat, but is there a risk that you lose your content because it's all hosted there and it's the original?
Yeah, and I can tell you a story actually. So there's this creator that I've been following for years. He's a super tech. He basically started out reviewing tech products, and he built computers, and he does like all this crazy stuff. He's massive, and he's one of those creators that got into YouTube when YouTube first started. A few months ago, his account got hacked into, and they took all of his content and basically like shut it down. And what happened is this creator had all of these draft videos saved within YouTube. Everything got published, like absolutely everything. So he had to essentially like close it for maintenance. But you can't just do that. But the reason that he was able to just kind of shut it down and get it really organized is because he knows people personally at YouTube, because he was one of those like original creators. So there is always a chance, no matter where you are, that things could happen. And that is just the way of the world. And also knowing that YouTube is like a streaming platform. Like it's its own search engine. Vimeo is a little bit more private. And we have a little bit more control. Again, there is always a chance that things like people could get into your stuff. So maybe having, like, if you do publish something to Vimeo or to YouTube, have a backup available like on your computer. So if you do have to post it somewhere else. But YouTube is a very public platform.
Yeah, and YouTube themselves have shut people down and locked them out of their content.
Well, same with Facebook, same with Instagram, TikTok, all of that, all those social media platforms. Like there is always a risk. And even with website platforms like Squarespace, love it. But I mean, sometimes their servers could be down. Or I've signed up to be part of their like developer program. So I get notifications and alerts when certain things aren't working. Just because I have to, but things can happen. Things always happen. Look at what happened with Rogers not too long ago, where half the world lost internet. Like it happens. And I think we just all have to come to terms with that, but it is also figuring out ways to prevent it if you can.
Cool. All right.
Thank you.
So thanks, Tez. Another question about uploading an Instagram stream to the bottom of a website in Squarespace. How do we do that?
So Helen, there is if you go into edit your page, there's a section to add a block. So blocks are like your text, photos, videos, social media links, all of that. If you scroll to the bottom, there's one that says Instagram. You're going to paste it where you want it, and then it'll ask you to log into your Instagram, and you basically connect it. And then when your Instagram feed uploads, like when you upload a new post, it'll automatically connect to that block and it'll update your stream. Other ways to get around this, if you wanted to customize it a little bit more, because Squarespace only has like one option of style. I mean, you can show how many posts there are, but there's another platform that Laura and I use called Elfsight. Laura, I don't know if you can put it in the chat.
Yep.
But it's will actually work on all websites. If you don't have the option to add widgets or blocks or anything, there's like all these like custom options. So you could even add Google reviews, Etsy reviews. You can do all like a chat bot, social media feeds like TikTok or even like Facebook, Instagram. There's so many. You can do like a price table. It is a paid platform, but the options are limitless on how you can customize your website.
Do we want to mention Square Kicker too? Is that worth?
Yes. Another platform we use is Square Kicker. This platform allows you to customize your Squarespace website past its original abilities without the need for knowing code. We use it all the time. That doesn't really help the Instagram stream aspect of it, but if you really want to get into learning more about how to design your Squarespace website, this is a really cool tool. And you can add way more animations. You can customize your buttons a little bit better, customize your anchor links. It is paid. But if you want to take that extra step to make your Squarespace website look less templatey, I recommend looking into something like this or learning code.
And that's just for Squarespace though, right?
That's just
there's other platforms too, and even with Shopify, and that's just brings it to the point. Make sure you have a template, but make sure there's either not a ton of those templates out there, because you want to look unique and not like you've just cookie cuttered things, right? Which is why it's nice to have a designer or do the extra work yourself. So Square Kicker lets you do that. Shopify has some challenges. A lot of they look very cookie cutter too. So make sure you consider how you're going to make it not look so cookie cutter. It adds that element of uniqueness to your website, right?
And I guess a quick little announcement, Laura and I are launching another platform specifically for Squarespace templates. So keep looking out for that one. We're going to be doing some announcements soon, but it is in the works, and actually creating full-on website templates. Then all you have to do is plug in your information, and they do not look cookie cutter. They are beautiful. And some of the images that I showed in today's slides were some of those templates. So keep your eye out for that. I'm super pumped.
Cool.
There was
Emily, you showed us, I think it was Miro, your schematic for designing a website that you use to see the flow and big picture. Can we have access to like a template of that?
Sure. Yeah,
Thanks.
I can do that.
Thank you.
We'll put it up on the website, and we'll make sure it's in the member portal for sure, Des.
That's
Thanks.
really okay. There was another question about, is it better to have a website all in one, meaning the same page includes all the details, or better to have a website with many pages, so like home, about us, etc.? Again, this is a common question, and my answer, as with most things, is it depends. So there are times where one page works. And we've done this before with businesses who are maybe not ready to fully launch, or they're not ready to talk more about their product. So this one pager is meant to be all information about what's coming. Or maybe a business that doesn't have a lot of information. For tech startups, for example, if you have a product that is coming in and you want people to sign up for your newsletter to get more information and share a video of what's to come, great one pager. It's awesome. It's to the point. It's letting you know that there's more coming. If you are anything else, if you have more information, separate pages are really great to keep things organized. Think about if you have a one pager, people have to scroll through the entire page to find your information. So if you do have a great story, and you want to talk about it, have an about page. If you do have services that you want to include more details, have a service page. Or if you want to have a page that has like all of your social media links, your contact information, map, booking links, have a contact page. These pages are a great way to organize your information, not just for you, but for your user, because it's common. It's common knowledge that when people want to learn more about you, they're going to look for that about page instead of scrolling through an entire page. That being said, if you just want to keep everything on one page, you can have still a main navigation. So you're about, contact. And then when they click on it, it would automatically scroll down. So it's a way to kind of get around it. But again, I always recommend having those separate pages because then you can so easily build on that. So if you have an about page and you have your story, it's great. Now, all of a sudden, a year later, it's like, oh, I'm doing all this like community volunteering. I want to talk about this. I want to show it. Put it in your about page. You can easily expand. Or if your services, if you have a whole bunch of services, but you don't have a lot to talk about it yet, still have a services page, a little description. And then as you build out your business, let's say you have more portfolio work, you can create another page with all of your portfolio work to that specific service and then link it over. Instead of now you have this entire one page and now it's going to take you so much extra time to build out those initial pages. So again, it really all depends on where you're sitting. I think a one pager is a really great place to start. And then you can slowly build out your web page.
Cool. And then speaking to navigation on that, do you have some best practices?
Yeah. So for those who don't really know what navigation is, if you land on a website, at the very top, it's all the pages. So like your home, about, contact, services, resources, blog, all of that kind of stuff. Best practices, you don't want more than 6 up there. It gets way too busy. And then when you scale down your website, it gets all messy. And then the words start to jumble all together because you have a limited amount of space. If you have more than 6 that you really want to show up there, there's usually, most of the time, there's options to have like a drop-down menu. So on our website, we have one that says resources. And then when you hover over top of it, it's a drop-down, it'll say blog. It has the Grow membership. It has all of our downloads, events, all of that kind of stuff. That is really, really important. If there's pages that you don't want up there, but they're still important, you still want people to find them, stick them in your footer. So your footer is at the very bottom of the page. It's essentially kind of like a wrap up when people get to the bottom. Most of the time, it has a place for you to contact, for people to contact you. So a link over to that page. It'll have your email sign up for people to sign up for your email, your logo, social media links. It'll have your privacy policy. And then it'll have your terms and conditions, and then quick navigations to essentially all of your pages. If you have a whole whack of pages, they're not all going to fit in your footer. That's when you would do something, you could do something called a sitemap. And it would be a page that people can go to, and all of your website pages will be there.